Hello everybody and welcome to our 13th already Java online course. Today we're going to be doing something really cool. We're going to be leaning or landing into the very good lands of Java classes. So we're going to be looking around some very cool stuff. So let's go there and we're going to just start our lesson. Alright, so we're going to go into full screen right now and start sharing our screen. Perfect. All right. So basically, we're gonna go now. We're gonna open the program as we usually do. We're gonna open our NetBeans program, and then we're gonna start doing this very cool thing about Java class because the whole point of Java is like you can have classes for pretty much anything you want. We always try not to overshoot and have classes for every single function, for example, but if you have a group of functions that do one specific thing, then you do want to put them all together in one class. It's just, an amazing way to just organize your job when you're doing a large program in Java. And even, like for example, I was doing this little homework for one of the classes, and I'm just, revising different algorithms. And you see here that I have what, like 8. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So I have here approximately 8 different classes beside my driver class. You see that here I have my driver class. I call it driver because that's the class that it gets executed, and that is a class that's going to be calling all the other classes. So you see that Java knows that because I have the main method on it. So if I double click on it, Java knows that like here I have I have my main method, which means that I'm gonna start executing everything from here. So inside here I can start calling my classes. For example, my field array class, you see here I'm generating, I'm basically calling and using this class here that is called field array. So we're gonna go into the nuts and bolts on how to do it. It's gonna be really cool. That's gonna open a whole new world for you guys. You're gonna be able to do something really cool here. All right, so let's go there. Let's go to create a new class. I'm gonna first collapse everything. I'm gonna collapse all. Perfect. Then I'm gonna go here and create a new project. So as always, we select Java application, and then we go and we're gonna name it Java classes. Java classes. All right, so we're gonna be doing some very cool stuff today. All right, so as always, we have our very humble and little one class here that is called just Java classes, and it contains our main method. And what we used to do here is just we're gonna start a variable, says for example int name equal to Joe, right? And then after our class here, oops, what happened? Let me see. Okay, I'm sorry. Yes, what I'm doing. String name equal Joe, and then after we finish our main class, our main function, I'm sorry, then we start another function, and you remember that we used to call it. We used to put some stuff there like static, right? We have to put public static static my fun the function, right? And then int number, and there we return, right? We return, return number, and everybody's happy or not. Let me see, number you should be good. Return type required. Ooh, okay. Public static int. Now we're understanding. Alright, so you see that that's the way we used to just program pretty much anything up to now. And everything was kept on one class, which was the main class, and is always has been the class that we start with, or our driver. We like to call that driver. That you can have many classes, but you only can have one driver class. I mean, imagine if you're gonna start your program in 100 different places. Well, you never know, the program doesn't know, the computer doesn't know when he has to start or where he has to start. So that's why we always have one driver, which is, our class here, but then we can have several other classes. And I'm going to give you an example and today. And now we're going to start, looking on what is a static function, what is a static variable, what is a public function, or what is a private function, or a private variable, or a public variable. And we're going to start doing all this cool stuff. And we're going to be able to really see, that all that we have been learning until this point is just to graduate us into this very moment right now, which is crucial. This moment will be crucial. All right, so what we're going to learn today is going to totally blow your mind. All right, so we're going to start by, for example, here I am in my Java classes. I'm going to create a new Java class. You see, I went here, we say Java classes, right click, and then I go new Java class. Java class. And then it's going to ask us for the name of the class. In our case, for example, I want to call this a student class, right? So it's going to be my student class, and that's the name I want to keep here. One second. So then we're gonna be doing our. Okay, I'm sorry for that interruption. Just had to uh, stand up for a second. And then, okay, it says student, right? Student, right? This is the name of our class. So we're gonna hit finish here. And you see now that we have our driver class I used to have before, and now we have our student class. So these are pretty much, you see that we have just a class declaration here, and then we don't have a main method. We don't have a main method. So here we can declare, for example, some variables. So I decided to choose this student class because it's pretty much a classic example that you can use for a class, and it just works for understanding, how to approach this new concept of a class. So what we're gonna do right now is this: we're gonna define some variables. For example, I'm gonna define the name. So I'm gonna put here int. I'm gonna put here public int name, right? I'm sorry, public string, public string name, and the name is gonna be whatever, right? It's gonna be just the name, and then I'm gonna put also public string major. All right, and I'm gonna also put int public, right? Public int I'm sorry, it has to be double, right? Because we need double, not double precision. We can work with a float. GPA, right? And we have these three variables, which is gonna be the name, the major, and the GPA. And we're gonna have another variable here. It's gonna be a private variable. It's gonna be social security number, for example. And then we're gonna and then private. I'm sorry. Int social security number, right? And we'll see now why we have to declare, some stuff public and some stuff as private. So we're gonna be able to check on that later. All right, but basically that's important at this moment. We have to just name something and then declare a function or something like that. All right, and then we're gonna, after we declare some of this stuff, and what we're gonna do is this: we're gonna create a function. So what else can I add here? Let me see. You know what? Let me create. Let me say that the name, the GPA will also be private. Private. You will see later. you will see that it's just, I just want to make a distinction between public and private later, and then I just want to name that like that for now. And then we're going to say public class student, and then we're going to create a function, and my function will be um, public. It's going to be public void, and then change name, and then it's gonna receive a string here, name, and then I'm gonna open a bracket and close a bracket, and then that's pretty much it. Let me see. Oh, public void change name, and that is outside my. Oh, I'm doing it outside my class. I'm sorry, it has to be inside the class. So I'm just gonna cut that right now. I'm gonna get rid of that extra one, and here I'm gonna declare my first function, right? And then everything's cool now. So basically, what I'm gonna do here is this. I'm gonna put that name is equal to name. So I'm going to explain this a little bit and why this might be a little bit confusing, but we will understand why. Basically, when you start a class, then the keyword this refer to the class that you are instantiating. For example, you see now, for example, that I have a name here. Basically, it might look like you're doing name equal name, and you ask why. Basically, this name here, when it has this thing, you see that it's green at the same as this one. So that means that it refers to the name that it has been instantiated here. That it says name there, right? But this other name refers to the name that you want to pass in as the parameter of the function. So, I'm using the same, name for the variable, but basically they are different because if I pass it here as a parameter, it's just we have seen in the past class that it is passed by value, not by reference. So since it is passed by value, this is just a copy that is being passed to us. So we're not really modifying that name here unless we do this, right? We are changing, the name using this function. This is important. This is a very, very, very important thing. Now, we have declared this class GPA to be private, and we will see why. But for example, here we're gonna now say public void, and then we're gonna call this set GPA, and then we're gonna need a float for that, right? And then we're gonna call GPA, and then we're gonna open and close our class, our function, and then we're gonna put here GPA, that GPA is equal to GPA. So you see here now that we are doing the same thing that we have done before, but we want to see the difference also, and we will, because you see that it says GPA, and the GPA variable here is declared to be private, but the name variable, it's not private, it's public. So basically, what I'm going to be later on explaining with an example is that whenever you declare a variable to be public, that means that you can access that variable from outside this very class that we are in right now. But when you declare that to be private, you cannot access from outside. You can only access from inside the class. So for example, I can do this assignment, put this that GPA equal to GPA, because GPA is an internal variable. That's why it is called to be private. It's an internal variable, but I am trying to access that variable from inside my class, so there is no problem really. There is no conflict. I can do that. So there is no difficulty here. And I also have major there, and that's pretty good. That's pretty good. So for example, um, now I'm gonna go to my driver class that is right here, right? And then you see that I am here on my main method, my main function. And now I'm gonna do something really really crazy. You will see how cool this is. I'm gonna put here just student, and I'm gonna put here new student or my student or first student, right? First student. And then after that, I'm gonna declare what type of uh, what type of variable it is. And let's see that. All right. So we see here instead of saying the type of variable is string or an int or a double or a float. Here I am declaring this variable to be of the type student. So you ask yourself, how does Java knows in this class that I have a class called student? Imagine, it's gonna be checking what all the classes to see what it is or something like that. No. What really happens is like here I'm saying the package Java classes. That's the name of the package. So if I go where it says student here, you will see that they pertain to the same package. So since they are from the same package, there is going to be a no conflict. You can use anything that is inside the package. So we're going to go to the Java classes and again, and we're going to see that it says student, first student equal new student, just like that. And then, and then, we are basically here we're saying, hey, I want from the class that is called student, I want to create now an object. That is the very basic concept of object-oriented programming. Everybody talk about it today, and people talk about Java and C++, and they talk about C Sharp, and they talk about Python and many many languages, and they say to be object-oriented. And what really means is this very fact that you can just create a class like we just did, right? A class called student, and then we can create an object out of that class. So, the way you do it is just you declare your variable to be of that type. So what is the type of this first student variable? The type of this one is student. That is the type of it. So now we declare that we want a new student object to be created. And the way we finished here is we open and close a parenthesis just like that. So now Java knows something really tricky here, but that is very, very important because that means that Java is going to call the constructor of this class. What does it mean? The constructor means that, hey, you know what? The default constructor, by the way, which just means that I want to create a class. We're gonna be probably doing this a little bit far down the line, but right now it's just very important to see that I am creating an object out of a class that I have just created. So this is really cool, and now you will see something really really nice. I'm gonna put first student the same way we used to do with other stuff. I'm gonna put a point, a dot, and then you will see here that I can access major, I can access name, but wait a minute, why I cannot see the GPA, or why I cannot see the Social Security SSN variable? The reason is because these two variables are private, so you cannot see it from outside your class. So I am starting this object outside my student class. Of course, I'm out instantiating or creating the object here in Java classes in my driver. So I have set up my student class to do not be able to to show whatever is private, right? And what I have defined to be private was SSN and also GPA. So, for example, I can change the name of it. So I can say first student, that name is equal to Peter, right? Peter. So now you see that I am actually creating an object here. You see, I'm creating an object. For example, I can do J option pane that show message dialog, and then I can just say, I can say here first student, that name, and everything's cool. It's gonna be showing now the name. So the cool thing about this is like, all right, I can create now another object. I'm calling it again my same class student, right? And then I'm gonna put here second student. Second student equal new student. Oops, student, and then I put a pair of parentheses here, and you can see now that I'm creating, a new object out of the same class, and that is the beauty of it. It's like you define a class, for example, for a car, and you in that class you define how many wheels it's gonna have, what is gonna be the color of it, the maximum speed, if it's gonna be gas or diesel, and then after that you can create many cars. You will see in the future that you can modify, the class a little bit to be able to, so you will be able to perform certain stuff, certain functions, but this is the whole core of it. You just create one class, and then after that you can create as many objects out of that class as you want. So this is something that is called modularization, or that's what is called object oriented, because you can create many objects, and in fact, all this we have been doing before is just comes down to the creation of different objects. Even though if I say here, you see string name, and I go here say name that, you see that although I don't have any public variables, everything has been declared to be private. That's why you cannot see them here. But I have all these functions, and all these functions are indeed public functions that I can use here. None of these functions are private. They're all public. So this is very, very cool. So I put here uh, name that. Okay, I was showing, that we have just created another object. Instead of being a string object or an integer object or a double object, now we know how to create our own objects. And how cool is that? That is a lot of good stuff right there. So then we can create our own objects here. So you see here that I'm gonna go here where it says J option pane, and then I'm gonna copy this and paste it right here, and I'm gonna put here instead of first student, I'm gonna put second student, and I'm gonna show also the content of second student. Now you will see that we have done the same thing, but let me go into the student class and let me see. You see there is nothing really as a default value for name. So what we're gonna find, I don't know. Let me see. I'm gonna run it as I'm expecting. I probably will see that my first name is Peter, and the second one is nothing, because I never instantiate. I never give a default value for it. I just put um, nothing on it. So then it's just not showing anything. So that's the way this program will work. So then, just give me one second. So we can see now how this is working. So now we're gonna go and look a little bit about having, for example, a private, a private function. Okay. So let's say that we want to use a change name function. But before we just set the name, we want to also ask for the GPA. So then I'm going to first create another function, and I'm going to put here private, and then I'm going to say private void set private void. I'm sorry, I already have created that function. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to change that. Instead to be public, this is going to be private. Private void set GPA. Private void set GPA. So now I'm going to, inside my change name function, I'm going to call my set GPA function. Set GPA, my set GPA function. And I need to pass, in order to call my function, of course I need to pass a float. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to call my float object, and then I'm going to say parse. I want to parse a float. And why I want to pass a float? Because I want to use a J option pane that show input dialog. Show input dialog. And then I'm going to save that into I'm going to say here, please input the GPA. Please input the GPA. Right. So now you see what I'm trying to do here. I have created a private function that is called set GPA, and then you will see that I will not be able to call that function. For example, I go here where it says, where I have already created my first student object, and then I'm gonna go here first student, that, and then you see that I have my two public variables, and then I have my first function that is called change name, and you can see here that I cannot see the other function, which is set GPA. And if I go again student here, and I call this to be public instead of being private, and I go back here with this Java classes, and then I try to, oops, what happened here? Oh, okay. I just have to be nice and just, oh, that's not what I wanted. I'm just gonna go here. We say, oh, yes, Java classes, and then I'm going to, question is that no, I think it's just a hiccup. Alright, G option pane. It's weird. It was working fine before. Oh, yeah, I haven't finished this yet. Alright, so I have first student, and then now I see that my other function is here now, set GPA. But I don't want to be able to people to access my public function set GPA. I want this to be private. So that's why I'm gonna change here to private. So my set GPA function will be private. So what does it mean? That means that when I call my other function that I have created on my student class that's called change name, and I'm going to give it a new name, like for example Paul, right? Like Paul. Then I will be able now to change the name, but it's also going to ask me for the GPA. So a good thing to do will be to declare my name to be private, so nobody can access the name of the student object, right, without modifying the GPA, which is very important. Imagine that you have a student on like I am here in City College, for example. Let's say that I have a student here. There is a student here, and it happens that they don't have a GPA. That's not possible. Every student here needs to have a GPA. So then it's if I call this to be private, a private variable, what's going to happen is that I'm going to get an error here because that is just it has it actually says it. It says that name has private access in student, which means that you cannot access from here. So I will have to go ahead and just look around and say, man, I will have to just comment that I cannot use that. So the only way that I can really change the name of my first student object, which is an internal variable of that object, is by calling the change name function. We're going to be calling the change name function. So basically now the program will allow me to do this. But you can see that also I cannot read it because even though if I want to show my first student that name variable, I cannot do it because now it has private access. I cannot access this class, this this variable. So now game's over. So basically now when I'm gonna start the first student object, right, which I'm sorry, first student variable of a type student, which is the object of it, the class of it, you will see that when I want to change the name, it will ask me for input the GPA. So I am changing the name to be Paul, but then they ask me for input the GPA for Paul. Let's say that my GPA is going to be 4.5. Okay, now it will do it. Now it will do it. You understand that you are passing the GPA for that person. So I think that something cool will be here, for example, since we're talking about this name, you go here before setting the GPA and you're gonna use the J option pane that show input dialog. I'm sorry, show no wait. Um, okay, right here where it says please input the GPA, we're gonna be please input the GPA, and then we're gonna say 4, and then here we're gonna attach this that name, that name. So now we're talking about the same variable of my main class, name. So now I can basically call up, my GPA and say, what is the name of the student that we're talking about here? Because remember that we can create many student objects, many students, from that same class. So now I want to be showing this. So let me run it again, and you will see what I'm talking about. Okay, please input the GPA for null. Why it is showing that, please input the GPA for null? The reason why it's doing this is because before I set the name for that name, right, for my object, before I set up the name, I'm already asking for the GPA. But okay, let's cancel that for now. It's gonna tell me a nasty message that I made a mistake. But I'm gonna just go here and I'm gonna set that up here. Then I'm gonna hit an enter, and you will see that now I'm gonna set the name before, and then I'm gonna call to the GPA. So then you will see now that please input the GPA for Paul. How cool is that? Now it'll understand that 4.4. That's a very good student, and then now it understands that what I'm trying to do, right? So another thing for GPA is, for example, something that I just did. So I'm gonna first check and say if um, GPA, right? If I have to put a parenthesis here. 1 second. So if I say if GPA is less or equal than 4, I'm sorry, if it is bigger than 4, right? If GPA is bigger than 4.0, right? And GPA is less than I guess nobody can have a GPA of less than 0, right? So then I will have this condition. Then if that happened, which means that there is a mistake, right? So I'm gonna call set GPA again recursively. I want to go set GPA. I'm gonna call my function again, and then well, not really. I'm gonna just return that, I guess. I'm gonna say, because if I cannot call set GPA recursively because I need to ask for the name again. But what I can do is this: I can say J option pane that show input dialog, right? And then I'm gonna put here, please, uh, that cannot be correct. Correct. Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? Okay, something like that. And then I'm gonna be saving that, but where? I'm gonna call my GPA, set GPA recursively, and then I'm gonna get that as a float, my float class, float that parse float, and then I'm gonna pass this. I'm gonna return that into that class. Set GPA, and then of course I will need one more parenthesis right here just to even it out. And now you say that I'm gonna call my set GPA recursively by asking what is the new GPA. Are you sure? Please try again. Please try again. Alright, so this is what's gonna happen. I'm gonna keep on calling and calling and calling, but if I leave it the way it is right now, it's gonna be an infinite recursion. So, well, it will not really be an infinite recursion, because since I have an if here without a parenthesis, it will only execute the first line, and after that it will not continue to execute anything. But I need to have an else, because only in that case I'm gonna call that else. I'm gonna set up. I'm gonna do this, and that should be it. Okay, let's try. I'm gonna go here, input the GPA for Paul 5.0. Oops. Oh, there is something wrong here. GPA, if GPA is bigger than 4, oops, not and but or. This is the symbol for or GPA is less than 0, then I want to call GPA to be recursive. So if the GPA for Paul is 5.8, that cannot be correct. Are you sure? Please try again. Alright, so 8.9, that's not correct. But 3.5, yeah, that's correct. And that worked. Alright, so basically that cannot be correct. That's what I'm trying to say. Alright, now we say that it says that cannot be correct. Are you sure? And then we're going to keep asking that until you put the correct GPA. So when we go here to our Java class, as we have done before, right, we're going to create an object, and we're going to try to pass the name for it. And then, we're going to have to go to the step of also providing GPA. Because from now on, we cannot access the name variable again anymore. But then you do have to provide a way for the people to read onto your objects. So you really want your objects to be read only, but not be able to write. I mean, your variables, like for example the name or social security, you don't want to just have, in general, you don't want to have direct access to your variables unless there is a very good reason for it. But usually you want to create your own functions to write and to read from and to your variables. So it's just a very good programming practice. So for example, here I want to create a big string, right? For example, I want to create a public function, public, and then I'm going to return a string. name student. I'm gonna call it student stat. Student stat, right? And then I'm not gonna need anything to call it. Just gonna create this function public string student stat, and here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna create a string, and that string is gonna be called stat, and then that's gonna be equal to this that name, right? Plus a space, and then or even let me do a new line character here, and then I'm gonna do plus this that GPA, right? That's that GPA. Then I'm gonna put here plus um, my n right here, my n, and I'm gonna put here plus this that what else do I have here? Major, right? Major, and then I'm gonna also create a new line here, and then this is gonna be now plus this that social security. No, so yeah, I can display social security number when we have the stat of the student too. That's fine. But nobody there is no function to modify the social security of a student, which is a very good practice. But you can read it, and you can read it by this function that is called student stat. But then, besides setting the GPA, I believe that it will be also a cool thing to do if we create another function to set the major, right? To set the major, or we can just ask for it directly and say instead of having a private function, since we are in our same class, we can just access major, right? Major is a string, so we're gonna put major is equal to J option pane that show input dialog, and then we're gonna put here please enter student um, student students name. So we're saying here just please enter students major, right? And then we're gonna be saving that too every time we call that. And then what else? Social security number 2, right? Which is an integer. So SSN is equal to integer that parse int, and then I'm gonna put here J option pane that show input dialog, right? Show input dialog, and then we're gonna say here please provide students SSN. All right, and then we have a quotation mark. We close it. We also need to close our parsing function. Now we'll see that things are good. Oops, and I have to put also here that way. Okay, so now we're gonna be asking for every time we ask for a name, we're gonna be asking for every time we try to put a new name or to modify the name of the class, we're gonna also ask for the GPA, for the major, for a social security number, and then we're gonna call in our class here, and we're gonna be in our function here we have a student stat, and then we're gonna be displaying all the information at once. So I'm gonna have this that name, and then I'm gonna have the GPA plus the major and also the social security number. That sounds pretty good. And then I'm gonna return stat. I'm gonna return stat, and now let's go and try. All right, so I have created an object that's called the type of this object is not an integer, it's not a string, but it's a type of student because I have created my own class for students, so I can create now my own object called student, and now I can set up the name for it because I have a public function that is called change name that is going to accept a string as a parameter, and now I can use this to set up the correct name for it. So let me see how it works. Alright, so it's gonna please input the GPA for Paul. Sure, the GPA is gonna be 3.3. And the student major, computer science. Yes, computer science. Wow, even better. Computer engineering. Yes, computer engineering works. Perfect. Computer engineering. And then press student social security. Alright, so let's put 111.111.1111. Alright, okay. And what is the problem? Oh, I was putting dots, and social security is supposed to be an integer. You know what? It's gonna be better if we keep the GPA to be a string. Yes, that's gonna be better. GPA is gonna be a string rather, because we really, we're never gonna add the numbers of a GPA or do anything like that. So I'm just gonna keep it as simple as it is, just as a simple string. All right, so here everything else seems to be pretty good. So let me try again. I'm gonna put here input GPA for Paul 3.2. Student major is gonna be computer engineering, and then the student social security 111 that 111 that 1111. Okay. Now everything seems to be pretty cool. But what I want to do after I have done all this, I want to show the first student that student stat, and we'll see what it's gonna say to me. Alright, so input GPA for Paul, we say 3.3. Student major is going to be CPE, and the student security 111.111.1111. And then, oops. Okay, here in my student.java, I also need to show this, right? Yeah, that's important to show stuff. Otherwise, it's not gonna do anything for me. Okay, I have my stat here, and I'm gonna put here J option pane that show message dialog, and here I'm gonna put stat. All right, so now we can show it before we return, and then let me see, it's running. Okay, so 3.3 student major CPE provide 2 that 222 that 222. Okay, and now it tells me everything that I need to know about Paul, the student, right? But the name, the GPA, the major, and the social security number. So this brief program, it was pretty much just just an approach to show how you do classes in Java and why is it so important. This is also our last class of this semester. We are right now in, well, you can see there that I am on the May 13th of this year, and then we're gonna go to vacation. Yes, this is our last class of this semester, and we're gonna start with the second part of this class of this course on the next semester. Will be at the end of August. I'm going to be talking a little bit more in deep of what really are creating classes and what are the versatility that you have. We're probably going to be doing something cool like inheritance and that stuff like that that you can do with classes. But you can feel very good with yourself at this point because we are doing very, very cool stuff. We are also stepping into, the adult life in Java. After this, everything is pretty much straightforward. You will understand the concepts because Java is pretty straightforward. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this very much as I do, and I did for teaching this to you guys and also for programming. I just love doing this. So I hope you guys have a great evening, and then we hope to see you soon. All right, you take care. Bye.